How much is a penny? How much is a nickel? How much is a dime? How much is a quarter? A penny is one, a nickel is five, a dime is 10, and a quarter's 25. How much is a penny? How much is a nickel? How much is a dime? How much is a quarter? A penny is one, a nickel is five, a dime is 10, and a quarter's 25. How much is a penny? How much is a penny? A penny is 1 cent, only 1 cent, yeah, only 1 cent. A penny equals up to only 1 cent. Okay, okay. What about a nickel?
We are live.
A nickel is 5 cents, only 5 cents, yeah, only 5 cents. A nickel equals up to only 5 cents. Okay, okay. How much is a penny? How much is a nickel? How much is a dime? How much is a quarter? A penny is one, a nickel is five, a dime is 10, and a quarter's 25. How much is a penny? How much is a nickel? How much is a dime? How much is a quarter? A penny is one, a nickel is five, a dime is 10, and a quarter's 25.
How much is a dime? How much is a dime? A dime is 10 cents, only 10 cents, only 10 cents. A dime equals up to only 10 cents. Do you have that? How much is a quarter? How much is a quarter? A quarter equals up to 25 cents. Yeah, 25 cents, only 25 cents. A quarter equals up to 25 cents. Okay.
How much is a penny? How much is a nickel? How much is a dime? How much is a quarter? A penny is one, a nickel is five, a dime is 10, and a quarter's 25. How much is a penny? How much is a nickel? How much is a dime? How much is a quarter? A penny is one, a nickel is five, a dime is 10, and a quarter's 25. If you have a penny, plus you have a nickel, add them both together when you have 6 cents. If you have a penny, plus you have a dime, add them both together when you have 11 cents. If you have a dime, plus you have a quarter, add them both together, you have 35 cents. If you have a dime, plus you have a nickel, add them both together, you have 15 cents. How much is a penny? How much is a nickel? How much is a dime? How much is a quarter? A penny is one, a nickel is five, a dime is 10, and a quarter's 25. How much is a penny? How much is a nickel? How much is a dime? How much is a quarter? A penny is one, a nickel is five, a dime is 10, and a quarter's 25.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469-795-8580. And our featured guest today is Dr. Edward Anhalt. He is a student financial paradigm shifter. What does that mean? He helps to teach students how to open a bank in a kindergarten to 8th grade school with students in charge. And also, he says that parents should start teaching kids as well as self-educated to become financially prudent. Dr. Edward, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, very good. So let's get right to it. Before we start this, I want to ask you something about yourself. So usually we ask the same questions to all our guests. Where were you born? What did you do at the early part of your life? What do you do now? And what's in the future for you?
Well, I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, the largest state in the United States.
Yes.
I want to see if your listening audience is
well, at least I was listening.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess my early start was my early introduction to education was after graduating from the University of Wisconsin. I went to the Peace Corps, and I was in Shiraz, Iran.
Oh, hold on right there. Okay, see, here is what I wanted to ask you this question. You got right there. Now, there are several questions I want to ask you on this Shiraz, Iran. See, when I travel from Europe to India, and they show this monitor, a flight monitor, and it always passes through Iran, and I see this little town of Shiraz. I always wondered all my life, if this is true, where is this Shiraz? And I know where Tehran is, But I don't know where Shiraz is. But the Shiraz shows up on the flight monitors all the time. So tell me, where is Shiraz with respect to Iran?
I live in a city which is smaller than Shiraz, and it's the 16th largest city in the United States. So Milwaukee is roughly 1 million people. Shiraz is close to now 2 million people.
2 million people. Okay.
Yeah. And it's southern. It's southern. So Tehran would be up here, and Shiraz would be south of Tehran.
All right. Now, when you went there, it says it's Peace Corps. Peace Corps means probably what, during Kennedy's time.
Correct.
All right. Right. Very
Well,
good.
I was a little after Kennedy, but
Okay. Now
it started with Kennedy, right?
okay. So that means the Khomeinis have not taken over the country yet.
I don't know. It's certainly not the place that I was. I was there during the Shah, and once Khomeini came in, the whole place became, through the revolution, entirely changed, and we haven't. I can't go back, really. My wife won't go with me, and she I guess is probably correct that we shouldn't be going there right now because we've got sanctions going on in that country, and as long as we keep them from eating, I don't think that they're in love with the United States.
That's right. Now that brings up another interesting point. In your resume, you talked about marketing director of King Solomon Mines in Eilat, Israel. Okay. When were you there?
I was in Israel in 1988. That's when I was working on that project. There's a gentleman in Milwaukee here who gives $1 million a year to the King Solomon Mines. It's an archaeological park, and it's called Timna Park.
Okay.
And it's the fourth largest tourist attraction in Israel. And so I was working on marketing by raising money for that project. So that's what took me to Eilat. It happens to be, again, in the southernmost part of Israel. It's right across from the Red Sea. You can see Jordan right across the Red Sea from Eilat, Israel.
The reason I brought this up is my brother, he went to Israel on a business trip. And then he wanted to go to Iran on another business trip. So
Yeah.
he went and presented his passport, and they saw that there was a visa from Israel. Then the
Yeah.
Iranians will say, well, our policy is that whoever has an Israeli visa, we don't allow them into the country.
That's
Now,
correct.
apparently, you cannot go there either now.
Well, I haven't been back to either place, and
unless you,
I'll be
unless
going.
you,
My daughter
yeah.
just came back from Israel, and happens to be Palestine. Jerusalem happens to be my second favorite city in the world.
Uh-huh.
New York being number one.
Okay.
And I just love Jerusalem, so I'd love to get back again.
Yeah, right. But unfortunately, hopefully those guys over there say, I'm sure you are there in the early or in 60s or 70s. I'm sure that's a nice place. But unfortunately, they have, especially they have made it very hard for Americans to go back to Iran. And of course, the two countries are at odds with each other.
You got the Olympics going on right now, and you can go to Sochi.
Yes.
But the Olympics, in the next Olympics that will take place, the Summer Olympics are in Brazil, in Rio.
Right.
You need a visa from the United States to get to Brazil. Did you know that?
Who?
In the United States, you can't get to Brazil unless you have a visa.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So I'm just saying, traveling in various places we don't realize, but it's not that easy.
It's
And
not
so
that
here
easy.
You've got Rio, which is going to be the site of the next Olympics for the summer, and you got to have a visa in order to get there. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, really, absolutely. So now, I'm sorry. Now your life is so interesting. So I thought that I may have to interject a little bit here and there. So okay, you finished your Peace Corps, and then what did you do?
I went on and I got my master's degree and my doctoral degree in education, and then I went on to teach at a university. I taught university for a lot of years, and then I'm right now the dean of education of another university. So I've been within education, stayed within it, but unbelievable. I dabbled in another area called promotional events, and I did over 125 promotional events. So I juxtaposed my life between the world of business and academia.
I see.
So
Okay.
I've done promotional events, doing food events that were huge with 10,000 people, and on the other hand, I taught college. So I've been all over the place, and then I opened up this banking program. So I've done a few things in my life.
Okay, excellent. Now let's get to our subject matter. So the
Okay.
first question I want to ask you is,
Yeah.
why is it some sort of I don't know the right word for it. It's considered improper for adults to talk about money to children. There is a psychological block And people think that if you talk about money, then you are actually poisoning them with all kinds of bourgeois attitudes or
Yeah.
capitalistic rotors. So what is the deal here?
Well, the first thing you better talk about is where kids learn about money. And 97% of kids learn about money from their parents. But as you just said, that's probably the biggest problem. They're not getting the right information. We only have 25 states in here in the United States that teach about finance.
Okay.
25 states don't even touch it. They don't even teach it. So when a kid comes out of school, he's had no, forget economics courses, he's had no course that's ever touched base with money. So I decided about 19 years ago that I would help in the process because I thought this was a missing component from school. So I went ahead and created this program like I had when I was a kid. I saved for bonds, U.S. war bonds when I was in school, and I went to school every day with this money so that I'd be able to get a $25 savings bond. So in essence, that's what we do right now. We let the kids run their own bank in the school, and we're teaching about finance because I have a curriculum that goes with the program. But as John Dewey, the great educator, once said, you learn by experiencing. So kids will learn about finance by actually doing it.
Correct.
So we have kids who run the bank in the school, and they take in as much as $4,000 or $5,000 on bank day once a week, and they take that money to the bank. And when they get to $10, they have an interest-bearing account and go with a parent to the bank and do a cosign with their parent, and they now have an account that they can actually go to the bank or the school. So when school closes, they can continue their account in the bank. So by the time they get to high school and graduate high school, they have thousands of dollars in their account that they never would have normally had.
I see. Okay. So now one other question that came to my mind, um, and we briefly talked about it. Now the parents themselves are very inadequately armed with teaching anything about finances to their children, let alone they themselves don't know. One of the questions that I want to ask you is, how good are these parents? An average American, how much money do they have saved at the age of 50? Say, for example,
$4,500.
$4,500.
Yeah.
So that means they are woefully inadequate to teach anything to their children.
Well, let me ask you a question. In Dallas, I'm not in Dallas, you are. Do you have check cashing stores in Dallas?
Oh, there is numerous check cashing stores. You cannot fall on the ground as step over anything here in Dallas without running into one of them.
And why would you want to go to a check cashing store?
The check cashing store I will go because I am, number one, desperate, and I need to get the
Thank
money
you.
in my hand immediately.
Thank
And
you.
I
That's
don't
number
have.
one.
Huh?
That's number one.
Yeah,
Desperate. That's the word.
Desperate, and then number two, I don't have a bank account, so I don't know how to go and deposit my check into a bank.
By the
And
way,
then
that group is called unbanked.
unbanked.
Yes, and there
Okay.
are about 20 million people in that subset in this country who have no checking or no savings account. So you're
And
absolutely correct. Keep going.
and I am probably won't be able to get a bank account because I don't have the proper credentials, or I'm just simply lazy
Yeah.
to open a bank account and go through the process of maintaining my cash.
Yes.
And
So
and maybe
you
I can probably sit here and come up with another for 20 different reasons.
no, but you hit them all. You hit them all. So you go to the check cashing store, you give them your $100 check, and they take 30% and give you $70.
That is right. So they have already made 3,000% interest on their money.
So that's called legalized loan sharking, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is.
So
By the way, a
because
lot of my friends listening to this, some of them are in this business.
yeah. Well, and by the way, those businesses call me because they want me to open up a franchise here.
Oh,
And
wow.
they tell me to forget my program, but I should go with this one because I'll make much more money.
That's, you know what, I mean, everybody does this. I mean, there are a lot of guys. Actually, as a matter of fact, people ask me, can I just go ahead and participate in this? No, to me, if the bank is giving 7% interest, I would be, and I'm not greedy, but I also have some moral values where I don't want to go ahead and charge so much for these poor guys walking into my premise and then charge them 18, 20, 30, 100, 700% interest. So I wouldn't do it personally. Well, yes, I want to make money. Yeah, well, the government gives you 3%. Maybe I'll charge them 12%, and that's about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I'm instead of doing that, and by the way, a lady by the name of Oprah Winfrey. I don't know if you know that name.
If no,
She
if somebody doesn't know her name, they are probably living in a cave in
Well, then
Afghanistan.
your listening audience should know that she was very helpful in getting this program started.
Oh, okay, very good.
And it was because of women of color who are the principal people who they prey upon in these check cashing stores. So we're trying to change the paradigm of how people learn to save. And through the kids, I think we're helping to change the way the parents
Well,
are
here
using
in
banks.
Dallas, the targeted community is the migrant Mexican workers, and they don't have the paperwork. They just come here to work. You can walk out there in Dallas in many different locations. They congregate, and then you can pick them up on your pickup truck, and then take them to your place of work, construction site or whatever, and then bus them back. And they
Right.
don't. There is absolutely no way for them to open an account because there is status, their legal status is not very clear. They can't get a social security number. They can't open a bank account. So the only option left for them is to go to a check cashing facility. I don't know how they manage this, but that's how it goes.
So you can understand that when I tried to do this in high school, when I tried to open up one of these banks in a school, in high school,
Uh-huh.
it didn't take me long before I realized that in high school they want an ATM machine. They don't want to learn how to save money, they just want to learn how to spend money.
Okay, this is
So
very interesting. The same questions that you probably ask in your course to the kids, how do you make money? So my son was watching me picking money from ATM. So I asked him, so you want to buy the stuff, this video game for yourself? You need to make money. So, oh, okay, please give me that card. I'll just go and get some money from that ATM. He said that that's how we make money nowadays.
how old is he?
He was at that time 6 years old.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
now he knows better.
now we're starting in kindergarten. So
Okay.
we realize that we have to go younger, and high school is too late.
Yes.
So we don't open these up in high school. We do it kindergarten through middle school.
Yes. So it took me a lot of time to convince him that this is not how you make money. You really have to work. So it took him another few years to understand the concept of how this whole thing is done. So yeah, go ahead. So if that is the case, so are you teaching the children, or are you going to, or in the process you are actually teaching the adults?
Well, you got to remember that this is interesting because all your bankers out there who are listening, or if there are any bankers out there who are listening, we are a Pied Piper program. I didn't start this program for parents. I started it for kids. And through the kids, what they're realizing in these banks is that once the parent comes in with the student, because it has to be a cosign, we're now luring the parents into the bank.
Oh,
And so this is the first time these banks are actually seeing not the kids, the parents as well.
my goodness.
So parents are coming in and opening up home loans, car loans, so they're making a lot of money. So if a bank was smart, instead of spending advertising to go out and do electronic or print advertising, of which they don't know who they're reaching, we have a program here where you go into a school of 500 kids. The school is probably no more than a couple blocks from the branch office of the bank. And look what we're doing. We're marrying them together. And
Unbelievable.
so not only are we doing an altruistic thing, not only thing is the bank doing a wonderful thing for the kids, but they're also gaining from it big time. So
That's
it's a win-win situation.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. You are also listening to our featured guest, Dr. Edward Anhalt. He is he's talking about the student financial paradigm shift, and he says how students in kindergarten to 8th grade school can open up a bank, and kids being in charge. And most likely, it looks like that he's not only teaching the kids but also teaching their parents to become financially prudent. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. Dr. Edward, please stay on the line.
Yes.
What is money?
Dad gives me pocket money.
Does he?
Yes.
What do you do with it?
Buy stuff with it.
All right. Where does Dad get it from?
He buys money.
Does he?
Yes.
Very cool. And where does he buy it from?
The money shop.
So where do Mommy and Daddy get their money from?
A bank.
And where do kids get their money from?
Adults.
What about the adults? How would they get their money?
Go to the money machine.
Where do you get your money from?
Banky bank.
What about the adults? How do they make their money?
Well, some adults will gamble.
Yep.
But that's not my parents. So my dad goes to work, they go to the bank, pay us.
What do adults do to get money? How do they get their money?
I don't know.
So how do you think the adults make their own money?
They get it from the bank.
How do you make money?
People just give me money.
Oh yeah? How come?
Cause I was doing a lemon stand.
Yeah?
A lemonade stand. Yep. And then I was giving them drinks with lemon in them. Lemonade. In them. Yep.
So they gave you money for the lemonade?
Yeah.
So where do those people get the money from?
From lemonade stands.
Where else do they make money?
They buy stuff and give them money.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Does money come out of the wall?
Yeah. Chocolate money to eat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. R.C. The number to call is 469-795-8580. And you are also listening to our featured guest, Dr. Edward Anhalt. Doctor, so you heard just now how the kids are answering the questions that are being asked by an adult. So what do you think of this? What is the situation here?
Well, there are all kinds of terms that we teach in our curriculum, such as money doesn't grow on trees, or penny for your thoughts, or or money, a nest egg, nickel and diming. These kids hear these terms all over the place, but they have no idea what they mean. As well as they see dollars in front of them, and they know that their parents are buying things, but they have no idea they have no idea. I went into a McDonald's, Dr. Chandran, and I said to the young man who was the manager, not just a server, he managed the place. And I said, "You're doing such a great job. I want to thank you because my stock just went up. I bet you my stock went up because of the job that you're doing." He has no idea what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I got a stock that's $95 a share.
Yes.
I have of McDonald's. I bought it at 85, and it went up $10 because I feel as if he's doing a good. I like what he's doing.
Right.
So I'm trying to draw a correlation to how he can make even more money than he's making as a worker in there, and he has no idea what I'm talking about. It is totally off the. He has no idea that McDonald's sells to the public and you can buy shares and so forth. So there's a real a synapse, a real
disconnection
of the whole idea of money and what it really means. And so I don't know how kids can possibly end up hitting the age of 65 and knowing what that word retirement means. You might as well just throw that word out the window. The way we're going.
Now, at the current time, right now, the kids are learning about money from their parents, and that's the only source.
Yeah, well, in 25 states, I know that's the case because they don't. It's not part of the curriculum. That's why I created the curriculum. I start out a curriculum where I teach I equals PRT, and I of course being interest, and P being principal, and R being rate, and T being the time period. So I'm trying to show them in the simplest form. Not that I think that the bank is the best way of earning money. There are other ways of doing it, but I got to have a start. I got to be practical here. I don't want to start them in Merrill Lynch teaching them how to buy McDonald's. I want to start them at least with a simple and compound interest,
Mm-hmm.
so that they understand their money can build and they can get more money on money. And so we teach that. I teach, there's a chapter in the curriculum on the sale of Manhattan by the Indians for $16 when Manhattan was sold. And the question is, was it a good deal? We teach
Well, it's
about
a good
Alex.
fit deal for the buyer, of course.
Yeah, of course. We also teach, about the Federal Reserve and the bank that Hamilton built, so they know who Alexander Hamilton was. And we're teaching about all those different positions in a bank, not only just a teller. All these kids know is a teller, but there are probably about 30 or 40 different positions in banking itself. And so when they learn about the different forms of banking, such as checking accounts, savings accounts, money markets, stock market, we give them, and by the way, I can't teach this. All I can do is give it to the teacher in a very user friendly form and hope that the teacher will incorporate it with their existing curriculum. But that's a part of what we give from the bank. The bank pays for deposit slips, passbooks, ledger sheets, denominational stamps, and the curriculum. And that's the gift that the bank pays for to give to the kids to open up the school.
Okay, now the one thing is
Open
that
up the bank in the school.
okay, now only question I have is, technically speaking, is there an age limit for children to open up a bank account, or
By
how
the way,
does that work?
technically speaking, a bank can't open a bank in a school by themselves.
I
Just so
see.
you know that Federal Reserve does, FDIC does not allow that because it looks like they're opening a branch office. So they have to
Okay.
go through somebody like us because we make it kosher by making it legitimate. Because we're an educational organization, they would look like it's a commercial endeavor. So I just wanted to make that clear that there are rules and regulations from the FDIC, and for compliance purposes, we have to make sure we protect the bank and don't put them in any jeopardy. Now, you had asked me another question: how age appropriate?
I mean, not age appropriate. I just asked about the legal ramification because you have to be 18 years old unless you are signed off by a parent or an adult to open up a bank account. Correct?
You cannot go into the bank. We can have the bank account with the school and the bank, but once they hit that $10 mark, which is making it so it becomes interest bearing, they then have to go with a parent if they're under 18 to the bank
Right.
to do a co-sign. That's correct.
That's correct. Now, how is this? To give some more information about how the bank account or the banking is opened in the schools. Exactly, what is the procedure?
The procedure is that the school will assign a designated spot. So it might be the bookstore, it might be the cafeteria, and they then decide on a designated time. Usually it's one day a week, like a Wednesday, and they file out, each kid files out from his classroom. He's got his deposit slip, and he goes to the bank, and the kids running the bank are the upperclassmen, the brightest kids in the school.
Okay.
This is not a competition who see who becomes the officer of the bank. These are the kids who are the brightest.
Okay.
And those 6 or 7 kids actually do all the transactions. It's all paper and pencil because we don't want any computer. We want them to know exactly what they're doing. And they do a ledger sheet to make sure that everything is check and balance. So when they put the denominational stamp down, the kid gave $1, they put $1 down, and then they break off the deposit slip, they give him one, and they keep one in the school. And they also make a mark on the ledger sheet for that particular student. So in case they lose the passbook, they always have a way of knowing how much money is in their account.
I see. So now this is all manual. There is no computer involved.
No.
Okay. Very
No.
good. So, so the guy comes in there and gives a couple of bucks, and then he gets a receipt for it, and then
Right.
it goes into a ledger book with his name, or is there a separate account for each kid?
Not yet. It goes in just a general account for the 27th Street School because
Okay.
no money is going to his account yet because he didn't hit $10. If Cindy Jones has reached $10, when they send the money over to the bank, they let the bank know all this money went into the general account, but these kids here who are at $10, make sure you put those accounts into their individual because they've already hit $10.
So now once they hit $10, what is the bank going to do? Bank has to maintain this ledger in their computer?
Right. And the
Okay.
bank may not want to use what we use for the deposits for the passbook. They might want to use their own.
Okay, so
electronic
the
passbook or
so the
whatever.
students who are collecting the money, there are 6 or 7 students once a week or twice a week in particular spot in the building. They have to now go ahead and send the money, send the information along with the money to the bank with a list of students who have more than $10 and the general funds.
They don't send it. There is a liaison, somebody who is working in the school,
Right.
generally a first through third year teacher,
Okay.
and that teacher will take the money to the bank. By the way, the bank cannot come to the school with a Brinks truck and pick the money up. That's another violation with FDIC regulation.
I see. The bank really cannot come anywhere close to it except for conversation and setting the agreements and stuff
That's
like
correct. That's correct.
that. Okay, so now the banks, tell me from your experience, you have done this for more than 150,000 elementary and middle school students. Um, when a school starts this program, uh, are there schools that has hit a number of dollars deposited into a bank, a specific bank, that you thought was a lot more than what you expected? Is there any case like that?
That is such an interesting question. The first school we ever started in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is an inner city school that has 85% of the kids on free and reduced lunch programs. They took in on bank day, first bank day, $5,500. The call came to me at 3 o'clock that afternoon from the president of the bank, going, Ed, where is this money? Where's this money coming from? In essence, what he was trying to tell me was, is this drug money? I mean, where
right.
is this money?
Exactly. That's what first came into my head.
I know. That's why I'm telling you the story.
Yeah.
And what I told him was, you got to understand something. These are people who have discretionary dollars to spend, and they want to spend it wherever they want to spend it. So if you went into a school and you looked at the kid's tennis shoes, and he's got $125 Jordan shoes on, and he's got a jersey from the NBA with whatever player on the back for $150, the kid's got maybe $300 worth of clothing on that day. Somebody paid for it. So what I tried to get across to this gentleman, the president of that bank, is that these people like the program, and
Right.
they're sending the money to with the kid for the program.
Okay, so then that brings up, so that's the first day. That means eventually they may have several thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And by the way, that was me telling that president, you got an untapped source of revenue sitting with these parents that you've never tapped into.
Right.
And you're letting them go to check cashing stores instead of getting them and to figure out how to set up a banking account.
Correct. Now, these do they pay any interest, the banks, on these accounts?
Yes. The bank pays interest to the school for the school account. But when the kid comes in and he starts his own personal account, that's when now the student has a personal interest account.
I see. Now, this personal interest account payment on the interest to the student is paid by the school then?
No.
No.
Paid by the bank.
Paid by the bank, but comes through the school?
No.
No.
Paid
directly.
Now it's a direct relationship between the kid and the bank.
As long as they have more than $10?
Right. We actually had, I don't know if you follow football at all?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I'm not a great football follower, but yeah, I know what is a fumbling is, because I'm fumble all over the place, so go ahead.
You ever hear of the Green Bay Packers?
Oh, yeah, from your town.
Yeah.
Okay.
We used to have in the old days a rivalry between Dallas and Green Bay all the time. But anyway.
well, guys, Dallas guys, I'm talking to a Green Bay guy, okay?
Yeah, I know,
so don't come and break my house.
So in Green Bay, there was a guy who played football named Reggie White. He died.
Reggie White, I remember. Yeah, died, yes.
Great ball player.
Mm-hmm.
And he got involved with the First Bank because the First Bank was in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Uh-huh.
So any kid that had $10, I'm not talking about $1, $2. If you had your $10 ready to go, which was the $10 that would get you an interest-bearing account, you got on the bus with Reggie White and you went to the bank, and your parent met you at the bank, and he signed autographs and whatever and so forth, and the kid could open his account right there.
Oh, wow.
So that was cool.
That was very cool, yes. Especially in a football town like this. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So we've had some very interesting scenarios. In some cases, if a school has 650 kids, a bank would write one of those big checks for 650, the enlarged check.
Right.
That you see the clearance house giving, for Publishers Clearinghouse Award.
Yes.
So they gave a check for 650 kids because there were 650 kids in the school. What they were saying is, we're going to start each kid out with his first dollar.
Oh.
We're going to give $1 so that we start the account of each kid.
Okay, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. R.C. The number to call is 469-795-8580. You are also listening to Dr. Edward Anhalt, and he has been working on trying to educate the kindergarten to 8th grade students on and beyond how to be financially prudent and how to open up a bank account and what are the advantages. And he gave us a very interesting statistics that by age 50, you know, the average American has only $4,500 in total savings, and apparently retirement is going to be a big issue for these guys. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back, and doctor, please stay on the line.
What's good, YouTube? I just came back from the store. This is my little updated how to make money as a teen/kid video. I saw I got like 6,000 views on my other one, so you know what, people are still looking to how to make money as a teen or kid. If you're still in school, this could be very, very good for you. If you are subscribed to me, I actually made $100 last week, and from selling all the candy. And if somebody, I personally don't like having money, so I just work alone, but I have somebody who works with me, who I pay $2 a day to sell my candy, and she sells it fast. Shout out to you. But if you want to start off with the basics, like the 15 to 10 cent candy, I prefer you don't sell this for 25 cents, but I have Jolly Ranchers with different flavors. Pause the video and read. I prefer you sell this because a lot of people would really want this because first of all, it's nice and it's little, so they could just stick it in their mouth, and plus they could suck on it instead of like having their gums tired it out. Everybody will buy this little piece of thing. Okay, I bought this was $2, but it contains like 70 to 80 Jolly Ranchers, and from this one little bag when I first started selling, I actually got $7, so that's a good profit because this was like $2.50.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. R.C. The number to call 469-795-8580. You are also listening to Dr. Edward Anhalt. He is the expert on teaching kids as to how to save money so that they can retire happily. Well, doctor, welcome back to our third segment. So, you know, while we were taking a break, I put on this little video there, and there's this little girl. She probably looks like around 10 years old, and she's selling these Jolly Rancher candies, and apparently for $2.50 she's buying and selling it for $7. What do you think of this girl?
Well, you know, I love anybody young who's learning about how to make money and how to treat money, because Jackie Mason, you know the comedian Jackie Mason?
Sure, yes.
Jackie Mason had a great line, and it said, I got enough money to last me the rest of my life, unless I buy something.
Absolutely.
So
the honeymooners, right?
Huh?
Honeymooners.
Right.
Jackie Mason.
Oh,
yeah.
no, Jackie Mason is the little guy, the comedian. You're thinking of Jackie
Gleason. Jackie Gleason, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay.
Jackie Mason is a guy about 90 years old, and he's a very funny guy. But anyway, the line I thought was great. In other words, like you said with your son, where do you get this money? Where does it come from? It doesn't grow on trees. It has to be made. You have to have some kind of an idea of investing, interest, budgeting, debt, earning. These words have to be understood. And so I love to think that you want to teach them as young as possible.
Right.
Not go through an entire 12 years of education and never hear about them.
Correct.
So I love anybody who's doing anything to learn about money, and so that little girl was wonderful.
All right, let's listen to a couple of more, another minute of.
And if you
Let's listen to another minute of her. What she's trying to say here.
wanna sell like for the big ones and try to get more money, I prefer you sell these for 25 to 30 cents. Oh, and I sell these for 15 cents, 7 for $1. I prefer you sell these, what I'm about to show you, for 30 to 25 cents. Everybody loves suckers or whatever you call it. I call it lollipops, but obviously a lot of people call it suckers. I can't seem to open it, but it's glow pops. These go in stores for 25. So try to get the store retail a new hat for $12 because you had that profit. So yeah. Everybody likes Reese's.
Okay, so what she's trying to do is she has a little, looks like she has a little candy store behind her, and she's picking up different things, Jolly Ranchers, milk chocolates, and everything else. This I just picked out of randomly picked out of a YouTube because it tells me that there are kids out there like this who are actually doing this kind of work. All right.
I'm not so sure I like her product. I mean, I would have to say that I would have to coach her a little bit more and try to get her to find a product that really is going to sell like hotcakes. I'm not sure.
Like what? What would you suggest?
Well, you know, you're catching me right now by a little off guard here, but
You got to
more
think about it.
people- I have to think about it. But if it's something that really is relevant to the user, and if she's whatever her age group she's selling to, you got to find out what that age group really needs and really is buying on a regular basis. And if I come and sell it to you, you have to have it because you're buying it anyway. So buy it from me and help me because I'm a little kid and I'm trying to work my way to get a college education or whatever.
See,
And
for example, in my son's age group, I guarantee it. If I put a bunch of video games in front of him, I think it'll go like hotcakes because
okay,
you know
okay.
that's how these guys are not they're living and dying by video games.
But my point is I'm not so sure I want to sell candy because candy is not necessarily something that everybody is thinking about having. They don't
Right.
need it.
Right.
And so all I want to do is plug into whatever it is that is the quintessential thing that somebody needs. And as long as they're going to need it anyway and going to buy, then buy it from me.
Okay. Now the next important thing that I wanted to ask you, it used to be in 1983, the Federal Reserve was, you can buy bonds and treasuries and everything else. The interest rate was the highest ever, 13%. You remember in 1983, 82?
Oh yeah, those days are
Those days are
right.
gone now. Now in Japan, if you put money in the bank, it's negative interest. They take a 0.5% off every year. So now putting money in the bank is one thing. Now putting the money in the bank and expecting some kind of an interest is an entirely different thing. What kind of interest these kids can get?
Yeah. Well, remember, the kid is going to get 0.5% in the bank. That's the going rate.
So is
But
there
I wanna-
anything that they can do among themselves and start probably loaning it to their friends?
Well, so they can make another
Another
percent off of
2%,
that,
yeah.
right.
You said they
Well,
can.
that's where we'd come in. We'd have to help them and coach them and show them there are ways in which you can get even better than 0.5%.
Okay.
I mean, I like to think today on my money, just me personally, if I can get 5% on return right now,
That's great.
given my age and so forth, I don't want to be too risky. If I can get 6% on money, that's great. If I go with Warren Buffett and I get about 18 or 19% with Berkshire, that's phenomenal.
Yes.
Do I have that kind of money to invest? Well, that's another story. It always means you need more money to be able to invest and get more money on your money.
Correct.
But I have ways right now. If I buy Hawaiian Electric, for example, HE, they pay 5%, 5.5%, and I got something which is pretty stable. So I'm not looking for return, meaning I'm not looking for the company to go like this. I'm just looking for this. And if
Slow
I get
increase.
this, right, and I'll take 5% on that, which of course is better than the half. But I'm in a teaching mode. Remember, we got to keep in mind who our universe is.
Right.
These are kids in kindergarten, first
Correct.
grade, second grade.
Right.
We got to teach according to the age group. So let's just get started and be pragmatic.
Right.
and let's teach this whole idea of just the concept of half of 1%, and let's have a starting point. Then as we get older, we'll teach the things we're talking about.
In one of the previous video, the girl was saying that, how do your parents get money? And that girl was saying, from gambling. Now imagine that kind of teaching, that their parents are gambling to make money. How disastrous that is. So, well, that's probably, hopefully, well, of course she said at the end with a smirk in her face, well, my parents don't do it.
But we all know that goes on, and some people will say that if you don't know what you're doing in the stock market, you could also be gambling.
That's right.
Once you get to the level of commodities, and you get to the level of you're buying sugar and pork bellies and so forth, you're gambling. So I don't like people to come into the stock market. Even when I'm teaching the stock market, I don't like them coming in as a gambler. I like them coming in as an investor.
Right. All right, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dr. Edward Anhalt, and he is educating kids as to how to be financially prudent and understand banking and where the money comes from and what is the use and how money is used as a tool. And he's also written curriculum for the banking programs for the 3 through 8th grades. And he has also written a book earlier on, and that is not connected to this, How to Raise Your GPA by 1 Full Score. For before, we have 2-3 minutes. Can you talk about that book and tell us where that book is available and what is that all about?
The simple thing about the book is that there are techniques that you can use in school, mnemonics being one of them, of which you can learn how to memorize and put things into sequential order, and you'll be able to remember something for a test. That's not taught. A lot of these things aren't taught. So I created the book on all these tricks that you can learn so that you will learn how to study.
Right.
And that's what it is. It's a study skill course on how to read faster, how to take an examination, how to use mnemonics, how to build your vocabulary, on and on and on. And if you put all those things together, you can raise your grade point average at least 1 full grade.
Okay, very good.
That's what that book is.
Okay, so where can they find this book?
They could get it at Amazon. You'll see it anywhere. It's called Raise Your GPA 1 Full Grade.
Raise Your GPA 1 Full Grade. And
Right.
It's available at Amazon.com, Kindle version? Yes?
Yeah, you should be able to pick it up there. It's out there anywhere. It has a USPS number on it.
Well,
And
when
so
was
you
this
can-
published?
I wrote that book at least about 8-9 years ago.
Okay, all right. So, all right, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live, and we will be right back. And Doctor, please stay on the line.
Okay. Dr. Chandran,
Yeah, go ahead.
there is a partnership right now that we have with ICBA, which is the Independent Community Bankers Association. You might want to...
Can we talk about this when we come back?
Yes, but I wanted you to know about it ahead of time because it's the ICBA represents 7,000 community banks in the United States, and those are small banks, and I bet you there are a lot of them right there in Dallas.
Okay.
And these are small banks. They're not the Wells Fargos and the U.S. banks, and we have now a relationship where we're hoping to put them into schools via and through those banks of ICBA.
Okay.
Diamond up for life to unfold all the precious things love has in store. We have all the love in the world. If that's all we have, you will find we need nothing more. Every step of the way will find us with the cares of the world far behind us. We have all the time nothing less on the every step of the way will find us with the kiss of the world far behind us. Yes, we have all the time in the world just for love, nothing more, nothing less, only love.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live, and I am your host, Dr. R.C. You are listening to Dr. Edward Anhalt. He is talking about how to make kids, students, middle school, high school, and elementary school kids financially prudent. Edward, doctor, welcome back to our last segment. We have about 14 minutes to go. Then we will come to a conclusion. The thing that I wanted to ask you about is the ICBA, the small community banks. Tell us that we talked about it briefly. The big banks like Bank of America or Wells Fargo are one of those. They may not be the ideal candidate to partner with for this type of student education. Tell us about these other smaller community banks and their association.
Okay, I'm going to start it by giving you the story of the Federal Reserve calling me up. And I'm an only child, and so when I got a call from the Federal Reserve, I, of course, thought I did something wrong. Why would the feds be calling me up? They were calling me up to have me come to Kansas City to one of the 12 Fed offices to open up a bank inside of a Boys and Girls Club. So that's the large story. That's the feds calling me and saying, we like the program. On the other hand, we got contact from ICBA, which is the Independent Community Bankers of America. They represent the smaller banks. And so about 3 or 4 months ago, we started a partnership with them to hopefully be able to put this program into their bankers, their banks.
Mm-hmm.
And they represent, as I said, 7,000 small banks. So we've got this, and we've put this into Wells Fargo. We put it into U.S. Bank. We've had the big banks, but we now are looking at hopefully trying to do this from the small bank perspective.
Well, the small banks are also much more entrenched on the local communities compared to the big banks. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Right.
Now, let's go back to one of the last issue that we had. What is the difference between the unbanked and the underbanked?
They're about the same. Unbanked, of course, is having no bank account, no checking account, no relationship with a bank. Underbanked are those who really might be using it once in a while, but they're not using it on a regular basis. And so these are people who they touch a bank once in a while, but they really are not in any way into a traditional or a continual use of the bank.
What is the minimum age for kids to start learning about money?
Well, I say you can teach kids about money from the ages around 5 years old. You need to know what the parent does for a job and what they do every day when they go out earning money for the house. And there's a difference between what you want to buy and what you need to buy. That's at 5 years of age. If a kid's gotten into this thing of like, I want, and doesn't have the understanding of what you need as opposed to what you want,
right?
We got a problem. When you get to 6 to 10, now you get choices of how you spend your money. And also the idea of shopping around to understand where you can get the best deal. My kid wanted to buy Beanie Babies. I'll never forget it. So she told me how much I should spend for this particular Beanie Baby. I said, well, where did you find out what the price is for that? And she said, here. And she gave me the Beanie Baby catalog, which showed me how much it should be. I said, no, no, I'd rather go to eBay and find out what people really are willing to spend for the product than to have Beanie Baby telling me what they want to mark their product up for. So you need to have an idea of comparison of where you need to shop. And you can teach that anywhere from 6 to 10 years of age. So all along the way, there are different things you can be teaching according to age set.
Uh-huh.
And what I'm saying, I go back to my whole thing and say in Singapore and Australia, every school is teaching about economics. In this country, we got 25 states that do not teach anything about economics, and I think that's terrible.
Well, the economics are taught in those countries at which grade level?
Is starting out, as I just said, at 5 years of age, they've got a part in the curriculum which is teaching about finance.
Oh. Oh, what do they teach exactly? Same thing? I mean, in
Yeah,
addition to numbers, where you... Yeah.
Yeah, needing to know that money is necessary to buy something. That's the first thing at age 5. That if you want something, it's going to take this, and you show them the bill, and you lay all the coins out, and you show them denominations. And just like a kid, there are some kids who can go to the piano at age 5 and play the piano.
Right.
There are kids that should know about finance and know what all the monetary, what the bills look like.
Okay. Now, it looks like those of us who become financially inept at our adult age, where we are most of us, not me personally or you, but I'm talking about most people, end up living beyond their means. That means either nobody has ever told them what money is all about, or they are purposefully self-destructive and they just go ahead and mortgage to their earball or eyeball and continue this behavior. Is this strictly because of lack of financial education at a younger age?
The thing that got in the way of that paradigm, that made the shift, is the credit card. The credit card was the thing that got in the way, and that was to say, here, you can spend money even though you don't have it. But if you go back to Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, he said, never spend your money before you have it.
Correct.
And those are the words that my father taught me. If you can't afford it, you can't buy it. And so I'm into this mindset, and I grew up with this whole thing. Unless I really could pay for it, forget the credit card. If I didn't have enough money to back up what I was putting on the credit card, I really shouldn't be touching it or buying it. So, I'm a guy, matter of fact, I'm called an American. I own my own house. I own my own car. I don't have any payments on my car or on my house. Those are the two biggest possessions you have.
Right.
And I'm called un-American. I'm a communist because I don't have any bills. Most of the people, 90%, 85%, whatever, are paying these things off.
Now, let me ask you this. There are two things there now. Now, the credit card seems to be something very similar to what Henry Ford did when he was making this Model T. He said that, well, this is going to cost so much money. Many of my employees are common middle-class men, cannot afford it. So I'm going to put up a finance plan together. And so is the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all this other stuff. So how do you convince the common public that the credit card is bad while you are accepting this car being, well, your case is different. You are an exception to the case, exception to the rule. But vast majority of them, they don't have the money to buy a house. They can't put down $100,000. They don't have $20,000 to pay for a car. And the finance companies get in and everybody else makes money except this poor guy's car depreciates as soon as he walks out of the door. So, but perhaps the housing market is somewhat different because you still may have a little bit of appreciation as the time goes on. How do you convince them that car is a bad deal, but a house is maybe a better deal, and a credit card is definitely a bad deal?
I don't know if a house is a better deal today, to be honest with you. I mean, we're in a whole different upside-down kind of deal where you have more people renting today than ever before. I'm not so sure a house is a great investment. But let's take your car, for example. I don't buy cars that are new. I don't walk into a showroom and buy a new car. If the car is $40,000, you walk out of there, that car is going to be, I don't know, you're going to lose $10,000 right away.
Right away, yes.
So in other words, it's not an investment. That's not an investment. That's that's throwing money out the window. I always buy a car with miles on it. I like the warranty, so I want the warranty for 3 years instead of 4 years. So instead of paying the 40,000 for the car, I try to get it for around 30, and I let that first $10,000 be absorbed by somebody else. I don't want to absorb it. Now my rate of losing money is less
Right.
down. I'm always going to lose money.
Right.
I try to buy a car that I check with Consumer Reports has a high resale value, so that when I'm going to sell the car, I'm going to know I can get more money for it when I trade it in or when I sell it.
Right.
So if you think through these just so simple concepts, you're going to be much better off when buying a car instead of having to have. You don't need it, you have to have it, that new car. And that's some kind of mindset that advertising and marketing, which does a great job, has put into your head to make you believe you have to have it.
What
You
about
don't have to have
what
it.
about leasing then?
Leasing is terrible unless you have a way of writing it off. I would never, never tell anybody to get into a lease of an automobile unless they had some way in which they can write it off. If you
That
have
means
no
they
way
have
of,
to lose it for
no,
they have to lease it for their business or something.
yeah, if you have a business and you have a way of depreciating it off of your business by writing it off, makes all this, it might make sense. Doesn't make all the sense, it might make sense. If you do not have my daughter's leasing a car right now. She has a job. They pay her, not to her company. She has no way of writing it off. I told her it was crazy when she did it, and now she's finally realizing it. You don't get into a lease on a car. It does not make any sense whatsoever, unless you have, like I said, a company and you have a way of depreciating it.
I see. Very interesting.
So I mean, these are small, and yet they're important in the whole picture, in the gestalt. They're very important. Individual things on how you spend and where you spend your money are very, very important. Um, you've got to buy. I always like buying quality that will last, as opposed to something which is ephemeral that has to be thrown out.
All right.
So
Now
even in clothing.
coming back to the housing market, uh, you are saying that buying a house is not a very good deal right now. Tell us, our audience, why it is not the case, because I see what you are saying. There are a lot more people are renting than buying it. Why is it? Because of the housing market is in bad shape?
People spent money on a home, and they spent, let's say, $300,000 on a house that, if you today, after 5 or 6 years, is now worth $200,000. They didn't buy that house thinking they were going to lose money. They bought the house thinking it was going to escalate, and it was one of those things that was always going to bring back more money. In some cases, people had loans on homes, as you and I both know, that they only had to put down 5% on the house. They had very little invested in the house. The house came down so much in value, they walked away from it.
Yes.
They
Yes.
walked away from their loan, something that was un-American, and yet that's what a lot of people were doing,
Right.
saying, I'm much better off not having to pay for this, and so they just walked away from their obligation. So when you see stories like that, and so many of them, you have to ask yourself, what are you buying this house for? I mean, unless you can get it for a wonderful deal,
Right.
and you get into the bottom side of the market, maybe it makes sense. But if you're buying like the old days of thinking it was going to escalate,
It's not going to happen.
it's not escalating like it used to.
Right. Okay. Very good. So now we have almost come to the conclusion here. So what is the final word?
Well, the final word is instead of being a fascinating person, it's better to have a permanent income. You know?
Well, very
It's-
absolutely right.
Groucho Marx once said that money frees you from doing things that you don't like. And
Exactly.
Since he said that he dislikes doing everything, money's handy.
Groucho Marx. Groucho Marx also said, "I don't want to be a member of any club that will accept me." Right.
That's correct.
All right.
That's
Very
correct.
good.
So
very
all
good.
I'm saying is, in Dallas, if you've got people that are interested in coming on board, because we're looking for banks all across the nation.
Right.
You've got any banks out there that want to start any bank within a school, a student-run bank, please get in touch with us at bankingonkids.org.
Bankingonkids.org is the website,
That's
and
the website.
that's the website, right?
Right.
And you can also find his earlier book, Raise Your GPA by One Full Grade, available at Amazon.com. Dr. Edward Anhalt, it has been a pleasure having you in our program, and
It's been a pleasure being with you, Dr. Shannon.
all right, very good, and we will get you back here again in the next few weeks or few months, and
Yep.
continue this conversation. Fascinating. Well,
love
it's
to.
better to be less fascinating and have more money in the bank, but the conversation is fascinating.
I've had a wonderful time.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Ladies and
Thanks.
gentlemen, we will be right back.
Thanks a lot.
And good night.
Good night.